It's been said that fiction is a projection of reality, that it's simply the conjuring of a novelist who expresses our deepest fears, ambitions, beliefs, and ideas into a tangible form, such as a book or film. The art of a period is usually a reflection of the period itself, and novelists routinely draw from real places, real events, real facts, and real issues of the day. But what if they drew from real people? Take your own life, for instance. Your life could easily be retold as anything from a comic book to a 19th century adventure film. Paintings, sculptures, songs, the works. Over and over again, the story of you is told. And as long as the context and settings were different enough from previous retellings, no one would notice. Well, almost no one. There are some who have noticed a pattern too frequent to be accident, too consistent to be coincidence, and too prevalent to ignore. A reoccurring theme, increasingly willing to unveil itself. The symbolism in question is that of a secret society known as the Illuminati, a group associated with black magic, Satanism, and believed by many to be behind much of humanity's bloody past and its ominous future. A group who commonly uses eyes, pyramids, suns, and snakes in its symbolism, and not shy about drawing imagery from the Bible and Egyptian mythology either. But to discover these symbols' meaning is hopeless by analyzing a single retelling. It's difficult to discover which parts of the retelling are literal, which are symbolic, and which ones were simply added to tweak the story far enough away from previous retellings. But if we instead concern ourselves with only the overlapping aspects of these stories, the meaning surrounding the symbolism becomes clearer. There is hardly a single soul who hasn't entertained the thought that Hollywood might be running out of stories. But maybe they're not running out of stories. Maybe they're running out of ways of telling the same story. Because if you were telling the life of just a few people repeatedly, that's exactly what would happen. When looking for the most blatant use of Masonic and Illuminist symbolism, one need only see The Man Who Would Be King. The Man Who Would Be King was released in 1975, but the short story that it's based on was written in 1888 by Rudyard Kipling. It's a story of two vagabond Englishmen, Peachy and Danny, played by Michael Caine and Sean Connery, who were considered to be criminals by the British Empire. So they hatch a plan to travel to a distant, primitive country intending on becoming kings and returning with all that country's treasure. After a long, perilous journey, they arrive to Kafiristan and initially met with hostility, but are slowly accepted as heroes as they conquer quote-unquote devils and people in neighboring villages. Eventually, Danny, played by Sean Connery, is mistaken for a divine being when a charm adorned with the Masonic compass and all-seeing eye is discovered around his neck. He rules all of Kafiristan for a short time. He also violates the contract he signed before arriving by taking a wife. Soon he begins to believe the lie that he's a god, and disaster befalls his kingdom. Peachy, played by Michael Caine, decides to take his half of the gold and return to England. But before he can, Danny is bitten at his wedding and revealed to be only human when he's seen bleeding. Eventually they're punished. Danny thrown into a canyon, and Peachy scarred and suffered for 1,000 years. This movie has parallels with the story of the Antichrist in both Christian and Islamic tradition. A man arrives claiming to be God, survives a fatal injury, performs false miracles, and eventually punished by being thrown into a pit. Even 7 trumpets are heard in the movie, while in the Bible, 7 trumpets signal 7 phases of the apocalypse. And the Muslims say the Antichrist will arrive out of Kafiristan, the same country mentioned in the movie. The Man Who Would Be King has an additional similarity when compared to the apocryphal Book of Enoch. The Book of Enoch's primary focus is the fallen angels from the Garden of Eden. The Book of Enoch contains 2 characters, Timyaza and Azazel, which are listed among the leaders, and sound quite a bit like Danny and Peachy from the movie. In both cases, the two sign a contract and receive a gift that will make humans tremble. Both taught people how to make weapons and conduct themselves in war. And, just like in the Book of Enoch, Azazel is thrown into a pit in the middle of a desert, while his associate Timyaza is burned. And similar to the serpent from the Garden of Eden, Danny tells the woman that she surely won't die, and then later is bruised in the face by her. Exactly like the serpent from the Book of Genesis, who tells Eve she won't die if she tastes the fruit, and then later, the serpent is told that the woman will one day bruise his face. One of the Man Who Would Be King's most blatant retellings can be found in Stargate. Stargate is about an ancient portal found in the desert. A group of soldiers who walk through the portal arrive to another world that resembles ancient Egypt. When they arrive, one of the group's members, Danny, played by James Spader, is discovered wearing a charm with the all-seeing eye, and soon learns that the local people have mistaken him for a representative of the Egyptian sun god Ra. Soon, the real Ra learns of the group's presence and begins to kill and capture them one by one, including Daniel, who was brought back to life by Ra. Eventually, the few remaining soldiers kill Ra and free the local people from his tyranny. Danny, the group's archaeologist, decides to take a wife and remain with the primitive people as a leader while his comrades return home. The similarities between Stargate and The Man Who Would Be King are too specific to be accident. Both have the same name,
Daniel. I'm Daniel.
And brother Daniel Dravert, which is I.
Both were given a charm with the all-seeing eye on it before departure.
I have something for you.
Here, take this.
Both were mistaken for divine beings when discovered with the charm.
The Eye of Ra.
That's what saved us. Blimey. You think I'm a god?
Both tried to be culturally sensitive.
I don't think we should eat any food here.
I don't know, they might consider that an insult.
You dirty old brute. Different countries, different customs. Mustn't be prejudiced, Peachy.
Well, we don't want to offend them now, do we, Daniel?
Bloody heathens. Different countries, different customs. Mustn't be prejudiced, Danny.
Both include a scene where the slave girl is rejected.
No, you don't have to do that.
Now wait a minute, Ducks.
Daniel from The Man Who Would Be King survives a seemingly fatal wound, while Daniel from Stargate suffers a fatal wound and is brought back to life. Both decide to stay and take a local for a wife, while his partner insists on going back home.
Do this?
Yes, I'm sure.
You gonna be all right?
I'm gonna be all right.
I ain't going, Peachy. What?
You heard me.
The two movies even contain similar scenes in landscape. The Road to Eldorado is another veiled retelling of The Man Who Would Be King, with even more similarities than Stargate had to offer. The Road to Eldorado is about two guys considered criminals by the Spanish Empire, but before the two are punished and imprisoned, they escape the transport boat and arrive by sea to a primitive land. Using a map as a guide, the two hatch a plan involving plunder of Eldorado, the city of gold. When the two arrive in Eldorado, they are mistaken for divine beings after performing a false miracle. They become the immediate rulers of Eldorado, the lost city of gold, and their plan to steal the city's gold moves forward with ease. But, similar to Danny from The Man Who Would Be King, one of the two quote-unquote gods is seen bleeding, and it becomes evident to the city's high priest that they aren't gods, but human. The high priest attempts to kill the two would-be kings, but fails and is himself killed. One of the two gentlemen, Michael, who is mistaken for the sun god, wants to stay and rule the primitive country, while the other, Tulio, wants to go back home with his half of the gold. But before the two can return to Spain with their loads of gold, they run into trouble with an old enemy, Cortez. The two guys, Michael and Tulio, are finally forced to sacrifice their gold in order to escape. The Road to Eldorado contains several scenes that seem like cartoon copies of The Man Who Would Be King. Comparing the pair from The Man Who Would Be King and the pair from The Road to Eldorado isn't hard. Both are criminals,
but both of you richly deserve to be in jail. I have your records before me.
both make a pact to stay away from women.
Whoa, she's trouble. Wait a minute. No, listen. We are partners. We're partners. We have a plan.
Chell is off limits?
Bravo! Chell is off limits.
2, that you and me will not, while this matter is being settled, look at any liquor, nor any woman, black, white, or brown.
Both led by a map to a primitive country. Both hatch a plan involving plunder.
New plan. We find the city of gold. We take the gold.
Then we'll subvert that king. We'll seize his royal throne and loot the country 4 ways from Sunday.
Both hold on to the tail of a horse. A prophecy surrounding the coming of both.
As the prophecies foretold!
Both mistaken for gods, and later laugh about it in a private setting.
It's an entire city of suckers!
They think I'm a god?
Both perform false miracles. Both put an end to the high priest sacrifices.
Stop! Hold on, laddybuck! There'll be no execution of prisoners in this army.
And now you will, of course, wish to have the losing team sacrifice.
There will be no sacrifices. Not now, not ever.
Off your hunkers! No more groveling. We ain't gonna put your city to the torch. Nor hang you in chains, nor rape your daughters.
Both stand to gain a ton in treasure. Similar to the man who would be king, one decides to stay and rule, while the other intends on returning home with his half of the gold. Michael, like Danny from The Man Who Would Be King, begins to believe the lie that he was meant to rule. Both are revealed to be only human after being seen bleeding, and both will watch their treasure wasted in the panic of escape. Some scenes were obviously done simply to draw the connection between the two movies. The Road to Eldorado contains much of the same symbolism of the previous two films, along with having a virtually identical storyline: trumpets, pyramids, and sacrifices. And here, it's clear that, like in Stargate, Michael has been mistaken for the sun god shown here putting on his sun crown. You even have the people with the strange masks, and an arrival with a pale horse. In the Bible, there are 4 horsemen, or riders of the apocalypse. One is white and the other is pale, like the sickly shade of a corpse. Then there's this episode from the 6th season of The Simpsons, called Homer the Great. In this episode, Homer finds his friends acting secretive and receiving preferential treatment. After some investigating and a bit of meddling, he discovers that his friends Lenny and Carl are members of a secret order called the Stonecutters. But masonry is obviously what the Simpsons creators had in mind. Masonic compasses and squares, along with pyramids, suns, and all-seeing eyes are throughout the interior of this Stonecutter Lodge. Homer then learns that Grandpa Simpson is a member, making Homer eligible for membership. Here's the whole lodge singing about the conspiracies they're involved in.
Who controls the British crown? Who keeps the metric system down? We do. We do. Who leaves Atlantis off the maps? Who keeps the Martians under wraps?
So he's accepted, and soon a very familiar scene unfolds. He's initially met with hostility, but the high priest finds a mark on him that signifies divinity. They mistake him for a god and immediately becomes the leader of the group. Soon, he begins to believe the lie and his followers turn against him.
I always wondered if there was a god, and now I know. There is. And it's me.
You're not a god, Homer.
Am I a dog or a god?
We gotta kill him! Take it easy.
This episode is clearly rooted in Rudyard Kipling's story, and Matt Groening, the creator of The Simpsons, does a good job in making the Freemasons look like no more than a mischievous country club. Dogma is yet another copy of this story. Dogma is about 2 angels who want to get into heaven regardless of the wishes of God, and another group who has been charged with stopping them. Upon arrival, both pairs begin punishing the wealthy.
You and your board are idolaters. You are responsible for raising an icon which draws worship from the Lord. I don't believe in voodoo, but I do believe in this.
He shall pay 22 cases of compensation of 4 cows to each wife.
Both are unable to consume alcohol.
Inebriated. Loki tells God he quits, which ruins it for the rest of us, because from that day forward, God decreed that angels could no longer imbibe alcohol.
Contract. Tell His Highness we've given up strong drink.
Both met in the army.
How'd you meet?
We were stationed together.
Last time Danny and me came through the Khyber Pass, we fought our way, yard by bloody yard, and General Bobs called us heroes afterwards.
Both suffered for 1,000 years.
To accomplish here. You too know what it feels like to be cast aside. But you've only dealt with the pain a few years. I've dealt with it for a millennia.
3 summers and 1,000 years ago.
Both are seen bleeding. And as usual, one angel wants to stay while the other wants to go back home.
I'm going back to Wisconsin. We're going home, Loki. And no one, not you, not even the Almighty himself, is gonna make that otherwise.
The movie actually has Enoch displayed for a brief time, and a vast portion of the Book of Enoch is devoted to angels. Then there's Star Wars, a slightly more subtle retelling of the same story, and once again, traces of the same 2 characters. Han Solo and Luke Skywalker are a cultural icon, but they appear to be a bit more than that. Han Solo from Star Wars and Danny from The Man Who Would Be King have quite a bit in common. Both are longtime smugglers.
Boy, it's lucky you had these compartments.
I use them for smuggling. I never thought I'd be smuggling myself in them.
Rifles? Well, heaven help you if you're caught with those at the border.
Gun running isn't exactly new to us.
Both have a brainy best friend.
Now what?
This is some rescue. When you came in here, did you have a plan for getting out?
He's the brains, sweetheart. Which means she's got
14 2/3.
Both were honored as war heroes with their brainy best friend.
Last time Danny and me came through the Khyber Pass, we fought our way, yard by bloody yard, and General Bobs called us heroes afterwards.
Both ended up snowblind, which is blindness due to extreme cold.
I can't see.
Your eyesight will return in time. Danny went snowblind.
Both pairs have a grudge against an empire.
I've seen a lot of action.
With all we've been through, sometimes I'm amazed we're in as good condition as we are. What with the rebellion and all.
You know of the rebellion against the Empire?
Great country. Or was, till the bureaucrats took over and ruined everything. Because them that govern spend all their time making up new laws to stop men like you and me from getting anywhere. And whose loss is it, eh? Why, England's, of course.
We go back a long way, Lando and me.
You trust him?
No. He's got no love for the Empire, I can tell you that.
Do you suppose if a man thought twice, he'd give his life for Queen and country? Not bloody likely.
Both pairs have been mistaken for gods.
I could be mistaken. They're using a very primitive dialect, but I do believe they think I am some sort of god.
Both are impulsive warriors.
Certainly has courage.
What good will it do us if he gets himself killed? Come on.
And what, may I ask, did you think you were playing at? Charging the enemy single-handed?
And even though there's no good reason to threaten someone with 1,000 years of torture, since humans don't live beyond 130, they are still both threatened with 1,000 years of suffering.
You will therefore be taken to the Dune Sea and cast into the pit of Carcoon, the nesting place of the all-powerful Sarlacc.
Doesn't sound so bad.
In his belly you will find a new definition of pain and suffering, as you are slowly digested over 1,000 years.
And both have stood with their friend at the edge of a pit in the middle of a desert with people crowded around intending on pushing them in. And again, the characters with the ropey hair get a scene or two. Even Chewbacca can be accounted for. According to Muslim tradition, like Han Solo, the Antichrist is friends with a furry creature who's so furry one could not tell its front from its back. This furry creature identified itself as Al-Jassasi, which is Arabic for the assassin. Jesus Christ also makes an appearance in Star Wars as Anakin Skywalker, aka Darth Vader. Darth Vader, the infamous villain from Star Wars, was originally named Anakin Skywalker, and his life bears many similarities to the life of Jesus Christ. He was immaculately conceived.
Who was his father?
There was no father. I carried him, I gave birth, I raised him. I can't explain what happened.
Declared the chosen one, prophesied to come, powerful magical abilities, rejected by temple leaders, wants to preserve life using his magical abilities, storms a temple. If you're not with him, you're against him, and becomes the leader of a large army. And I'm sure it's just a coincidence that the lady George Lucas chose to play Darth Vader's mother, a Swedish actress named Pernilla August, also played as Mary in the made-for-TV movie, Mary, Mother of Jesus in 1999, the very same year she first appeared in Star Wars. Christian Bale, who would later play as Batman, also played in the movie Mary, Mother of Jesus, playing as Jesus himself. Regardless of who played the part, it's clear who George Lucas had in mind when writing for Darth Vader. George Lucas's first full-length film was THX 1138. Akin to the setting Aldous Huxley's Brave New World takes place in, THX 1138 takes place in a dystopic police state where the citizens are medicated, under constant observation, and reproduction is tightly controlled. Named after its main character, THX 1138 was released in 1971 and describes a world where natural human emotion, like sexuality, are suppressed through a regimen of medications that's mandated and distributed by the state. The movie is about a nuclear technician who, like most, is emotionally inexperienced and emotionally dependent on machines instead of other people.
Yeah. I haven't been feeling very well myself.
Yes, I understand.
I don't know, maybe it's me.
Yes, fine.
I needed some Panura last night. I feel as if something
Excellent.
odd were happening to me. Something
Yes.
I can't understand.
Could you be more specific?
His roommate and future lover begins substituting his medication so that he, like her, will begin feeling emotions the medications are designed to inhibit. They begin a love affair and are arrested because of it. She ends up dead while he is sent to detention. He meets up with a couple of idiots and eventually escapes. The world described in the film is exactly the goal of the New World Order. For example, here's an excerpt from an interview of Aldous Huxley regarding his novel Brave New World.
But simply because the Brave New World pattern is probably a good deal more efficient than the other. That if you can get people to consent to the state of affairs in which they are living, the state of servitude, the state of being, well, it seems to me that the nature of the ultimate revolution with which we are now faced is precisely this, that we are in process of developing a whole series of techniques which will enable the controlling oligarchy, who have always existed and presumably always will exist, to get people actually to love their servitude. People can be made to enjoy a state of affairs which, by any decent standard, they ought not to enjoy.
THX 1138 is very revealing, has decent special effects, and is very boring. So boring, in fact, that even those with good taste will find the car chase at the end refreshing. George Lucas both wrote and directed this movie. That brings us to part-time billionaire, part-time vigilante, full-time vampire, Batman. And like a lot of other movies, Batman has more to it than it seems. In Batman, the strongest reference point is the very well-known fictional character called the Joker. In 1989's Batman with Michael Keaton, the Joker was played by Jack Nicholson, and in The Dark Knight, the Joker was played by the now-deceased Heath Ledger. Repeatedly, the writers make it clear who they had in mind while writing the Joker script. Here's one of the cards the Joker passes out during his crime spree. A card he gives out more than once has what obviously is a devil on it. And in this scene, we see a number of cards. There's the devil card again, then what appears to be a red horse with horns drawn in a dragon-like motif, then two dragons intertwined. Throughout The Dark Knight, Heath Ledger persists on licking his lips and rapidly extending his tongue, like a snake. Now here's Revelation chapter 12, verse 9. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent, called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. So he's the dragon, that old serpent, called the devil. And by the end, just in case there was any lingering doubt, the Joker proceeds to build a pyramidal mountain of cash and puts a criminal on top. But the other Joker, played by Jack Nicholson, also gives his identity away.
I was in the bath one day when I realized why I was destined for greatness. You ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight?
You ever dance with the devil by the pale moonlight?
Then, at the end of the movie, he says,
"Shall we dance?"
And then you see Vicky Vale and the Joker dancing together in the pale moonlight. Just another clue. Even the Riddler drops hints that he is in fact an old foe.
I see that sparkle in your left eye. Shall we dance? For if knowledge is power, then a god am.
Batman himself has some strange characteristics. His attributes are rumored to be similar to the classical vampire. He can apparently disappear and reappear. And Gordon, played by Gary Oldman, makes it clear that he has a history of disappearing and reappearing.
How are you gonna back him?
He does that. You know how to disappear. We can teach you to become truly invisible.
Invisible?
The things they say about him. Can he really fly?
I heard he can disappear.
And all of Gotham is wondering what to make of Batman. Friend or foe?
I have given a name to my pain, and it is Batman.
And disappear at will.
In The Dark Knight, this is left as only a hint. But in 1989's Batman, the hint is a little heavier. In that Batman, Batman was rumored to be a vampire that drank blood.
I heard the Bat got him.
The Bat? Oh, man, give me a break, will you?
5 stories straight down. There wasn't no blood in the body.
Now, let me guess. Giant, menacing, supernatural form. Kind of like a bat.
They say he can't be killed. They say he drinks blood. They say...
And although the movie The Mothman Prophecies is void of a single Mothman, Batman is not. Here's a slowed down scene from 2005's Batman Begins. In Batman Returns, Catwoman is killed by her boss, comes back to life looking extra pale, extremely strong, and goes bad. And Penguin, who runs the Red Triangle gang, declares war on Gotham's firstborn.
It's time. These are the names of the firstborn sons of Gotham City. Just like I was. And like me, a terrible fate waits for them.
Like the Pharaoh from the Book of Exodus, he targets the firstborn, a rather arbitrary choice. Batman Returns even has some of the more conventional symbolism. But the Joker isn't a character unique to Batman. We've encountered this Joker character before, and since. The Joker's true name, or one of many, is Asmodeus. Asmodeus is portrayed as highly intelligent, extremely sadistic, and humorous. But first, here's the intro from the movie Spawn.
The battle between heaven and hell is waged eternal. Their armies fueled by souls harvested on Earth. The devil Malbolgia has sent a lieutenant to Earth to recruit men who will turn the world into a place of death in exchange for wealth and power. A place that will provide enough souls to complete his army and allow Armageddon to begin.
In Spawn, you've got this Joker kind of guy who's working for the devil. His job was to prepare Earth so that Spawn may lead Satan's army to heaven and destroy it. In the movie, Spawn is betrayed and killed by his boss, is sent to hell, and makes a deal with Satan to get a second chance for revenge and love so long as he leads Satan's army to attack heaven. Spawn agrees and returns to the land of the living with incredible abilities and a regenerative body made of a luminous material. Now the clown is kind of bitter because he believes that his likeness is closer to Satan's than Spawn's is, and that he should lead Satan's army. And although he's bitter, he's under strict orders to ensure that Spawn succeeds in all he does. Eventually, the tension surfaces. Spawn and the clown fight, Spawn wins, and refuses to play ball with Satan's plan, and the Earth is saved. This demonic clown has quite a bit in common with the Joker. Then there's Asmodeus, from the movie Gabriel. Gabriel is about an archangel named Gabriel, who was sent from heaven to do battle with demon villains. He arrives to find a dark, cruel world where his comrades, who are also angels, live in hiding and fear while demons rule humanity. After locating his superhero friends, he's disappointed to discover that they've discontinued their fight against evil, and now live in the shadows. Almost immediately after banding behind Gabriel, Asmodeus and Samael discover the Archangel's locations and begins picking them off in an effort to remove the forces of goodness so that the souls of the city will belong to the fallen. After a long, drawn-out crusade to kill the fallen one by one, Gabriel eventually works his way up to Samael, who he kills and dies with. Then there's Ozymandias, from Watchmen. Watchmen is about a group of crime-fighting superheroes who retire and go their separate ways. All but two of these superheroes, Ozymandias and Dr. Manhattan, keep their identity secret. Soon it appears that members of the retired supergroup, the Watchmen, are being targeted for assassination. It is eventually revealed that superhero and former colleague, Ozymandias, is behind the plan to neutralize his ex-partners so that he may bring about a massive change on a global scale by using a series of false flag terrorist attacks. Watchmen, similar to Gabriel, includes a superhero who's disappointed that his comrades who are retired, in hiding, and letting a potentially evil plot proceed unchallenged. But more than that, it includes two characters whose names sound similar, Asmodeus and Ozymandias. Not exactly a stretch. Still more, both are behind assassinations and rumored to be homosexual. Here's Adrian, aka Ozymandias, from Watchmen, hanging out with the village people.
Even Adrian fight. Possible homosexual.
Here's Asmodeus' play toy, who is obviously a man in drag, and in this scene definitely ties him to the Joker, and it was designed to. Just like the famous scene with Jack Nicholson looking into the mirror, Gabriel has this scene. And similar to Jack Nicholson's Joker, Asmodeus cuts up his human pet and refers to it as art.
She's not finished yet.
Why is she wearing a mask?
Well, she's just a sketch, really. She is a living work of art. I'm no Picasso, but do you like it?
Hints that Asmodeus is homosexual also come up in Spawn.
Get away from me, you bunch-packing midget!
These 5 characters have quite a bit in common. 4 wear purple suits, 4 end up betraying the people he's working with, 3 are gay, 2 are concerned with gathering souls from Earth. Ozymandias from Watchmen has what appears to be a left eye on his belt, while Asmodeus from Gabriel gets his left eye gouged out, and all 5 run criminal organizations and are cold-hearted. My guess is, the true relationship between this character and the Joker is more accurately told in Spawn, where there's actually an agreement between the two. The Joker's most common role is to corrupt this main character by provoking him into making bad choices, rather than killing him. And even though Asmodeus recognizes Gabriel as an enemy angel, rather than fight him, he instead tries to corrupt him, and does so because he's under orders to do so.
Give this gentleman half price. I've got a feeling we'll be seeing him again.
Watchmen and Gabriel also have another character in common, Moloch, complete with odd-shaped ears, bald heads, and both working for the bad guys. Moloch was an ancient Canaanite god who was mentioned in the Bible as a pagan god whose followers would sacrifice their children to by throwing them in fire. Today, members of the Bohemian Grove gather to reenact this ancient ritual by burning a human in effigy. So who is Asmodeus? Asmodeus is mentioned in both the Hebrew Talmud and the Book of Tobit. He is considered to be one of the princes of hell, whose cardinal sin is lust, and he reportedly twists people's sexual desires. In the Talmud, he's even depicted as a humorous fellow who marries Lilith, another character in Gabriel. In Watchmen, Ozymandias runs a company called Pyramid International, and in the movie, creates a new world order by uniting the nations against Dr. Manhattan. But in the graphic novel, the crisis Ozymandias uses to unite the nations is a fake alien invasion. By the end, Ozymandias, who is obsessed with all things Egyptian, succeeds in his conspiracy, which results in world peace. Watchmen includes yet another character of Illuminati significance, Ra, the sun god, aka Dr. Manhattan. Dr. Manhattan, who chills out at the Rockefeller Military Research Center, is repeatedly connected to the sun god Ra, and similar to Ra, the sun god from Egyptian mythology, Dr. Manhattan turns his back on humanity and leaves Earth, and humanity turns against him. So Dr. Manhattan retreats to Mars and constructs a flying machine that looks like the sun no matter which direction you're looking at it. Here's Ra, written out in Egyptian hieroglyphs. Notice the sun symbol, here. Now look at the symbol on Dr. Manhattan's forehead. This Egyptian symbol designates the sun. It's also worth noting that Ozymandias, Manhattan's buddy, has a belt adorned with the Eye of Ra. Even our old super friend, the reluctant Batman, shows up in Watchmen. More so than the graphic novel, the movie contains one of the biggest ripoffs of all time, the Night Owl 2, aka Batman, the Dark Knight. Daddy left him a pile of cash, an alter ego he and everybody else is afraid of, advanced gadgets and vigilante doodads in his basement, and some scenes are just plain insulting. Watchmen are an obvious reference to the Watchers, spoke about in the Bible, Book of Enoch, and numerous other texts as being beings who were sent to guide and protect mankind, but eventually go bad. Watchmen caters to conspiracy theorists. It includes pyramids, a new world order, Rockefeller Military Research Center where the sun god hangs out, a grassy knoll, Moloch, and a character called Mothman. In much of Alan Moore's work, the authorities are often more corrupt than the criminals. Masonic and Illuminist imagery is also common in his work. Watchmen is even capable of making double-thinkers out of the 9/11 aware by providing a reasonable excuse to use the false flag terror option. False flag terrorism is when a terrorist attack is conducted against one's own country or someone else's and is blamed on an innocent party. Adapted from the comic book, Hellboy is about a character named Hellboy, who's half human and half demon. He works for a group called the BPRD, which is the Bureau for Paranormal Research and Defense. The BPRD is a super-secret branch of the government involved with protecting the public against monsters and other paranormal threats. Hellboy came out of a portal from hell back during World War II, and was raised by his adopted father, Trevor Broom. Hellboy has many attributes of the Antichrist. First, numerous mentions of him having been sent from hell to destroy Earth and usher in the apocalypse.
Demon, born from a womb of shadows, sent to destroy their world, and you still believe you belong.
Second, Hellboy's quote-unquote true name was Anung Un Rama, which means the Beast of the Apocalypse. The Antichrist is commonly referred to as the Beast or the Beast of the Sea in the Bible, and when told that his true name is inscribed on the chains that hold him,
Your true name is inscribed around the locks that hold you.
all you can see are sixes. Sixes everywhere. 3 sixes in a row, or 666, is referred to in the Bible as the mark of the beast and is associated with the Antichrist. Like the Antichrist from the Bible, Hellboy suffers a fatal wound and is healed. In Hellboy's case, he's healed by a dark angel with eyes all over him. This malevolent character heals Hellboy's fatal wound and warns that it's Hellboy's destiny to bring about the end of the world.
But you should know, it is his destiny to bring about destruction of the earth.
According to Islamic tradition, Hellboy is further connected to the Antichrist. One of Islam's narrations includes a testimony of Tamim Dari from the Hadith of Fatima, where he arrived shipwrecked on an island and encountered the Antichrist, which the Muslims call Dajjal. They landed on the island, where they were met by a beast who was so hairy they could not tell its front from its back. It said, "I am Al-Jassasa." It said, "O people, go to this man in the monastery, for he is very eager to know about you." We quickly went to the monastery. There we found a huge man with his hands tied up to his neck and with iron shackles between his legs up to his ankles. In the same Islamic text, the Antichrist is further described as being large, with red complexion and one-eyed. Then I turned around and saw another man with a huge body, red complexion, curly hair, and one eye. His other eye looked like a floating grape. And here we see Hellboy, extremely muscular, red complexion, dubbed the Beast of the Apocalypse, chained up in what appears to be a church or a cathedral. Hellboy also has roots in Egyptian mythology. The first Hellboy film sounds a bit like the story of Osiris, Anubis, and Set. According to Egyptian myth, Anubis is Set's son, but adopted by Osiris. Anubis is the god of the dead, usually depicted as a jackal-headed man. Set kills Osiris like Rasputin kills Trevor Broom, and tells Hellboy that he is his father.
Child. All grown up, I see.
That voice.
It was the first lullaby you ever heard, my son.
And as you would expect from the god of the dead, Hellboy practices necromancy and is capable of reanimating dead corpses. The Muslims also claim that the Antichrist practices necromancy. Necromancy is enlisting the assistance of, or communicating with, the dead. And Hellboy 2 seems to include the Egyptian gods Nut, Geb, and the sun god. Here's the intro to Hellboy 2.
The blood of many an elf, ogre, and goblin was spilled in their war with man. And King Balor, the one-armed king of Elfland, watched the slaughter in dread and despair. The master of the goblin blacksmiths offered to build the king a golden mechanical army. Build me this army, the king said. The golden army had no remorse, and King Balor's heart grew heavy with regret. So he called a truce and divided the crown in 3 pieces, 1 for the humans and 2 for himself.
This story of a king who unleashes a powerful weapon against mankind and then regrets it sounds like the story of Ra, the sun god from Egyptian mythology. According to legend, the sun god Ra was angered by humanity's disobedience to his rule, so he sent his daughter, Sekhmet, who was called the Eye of Ra, to tame rebelling humanity. But after seeing the carnage that Sekhmet caused on Earth, his heart filled with regret and pity. So he tricked Sekhmet to stopping her rampage by getting her drunk. Sekhmet was depicted as a woman in a red dress with a lion's head and was said to have been made from the fiery Eye of Ra. Sekhmet went by such flattering titles as the Eye of Ra, the Scarlet Lady, the Lady of Flame, and the Lady of Slaughter. The Egyptian gods Geb and Nut also appear in Hellboy 2 as Prince and Princess Nuana. In ancient tales, Geb and Nut were twins and also married. This union angered Ra and commanded his son and their father, Shu, shown here, to see to it that the two remain separate. In this scene, the brother and sister act as if they also have a sexual relationship.
I can feel that much on you. Father Wish tried so hard to shield your heart from mine.
Here's Geb below and Nut above, with their father Shu separating them. The goddess Nut is typically depicted in a tight-fitting blue dress, just like Princess Nuana's. Geb, the god of the earth, is typically depicted with leaves, and here's Prince Nuana standing in front of what appears to be foliage. Even our old friend Asmodeus makes an appearance as Karl Cronin, who, in the movie, is Hitler's top assassin and head of the Thule Occult Society.
Forget what you think you know. Vampires exist.
Blade, brought to you by Amun-Ra Films, has a similar theme to Hellboy. A bit more than a theme, in fact. Blade is about a character called Blade, played by Wesley Snipes, who is half human and half vampire. He works for a small, secret group of vampire hunters. Standing against him, a vast conspiracy of vampires who are out to kill him and subdue humanity. The first Blade film sounds like the first Hellboy film, the story of Set, Osiris, and Anubis. Blade, who was essentially adopted by a man named Whistler at a young age, does not drink human blood like his vampire contemporaries, but subdues his thirst with feel-good juice he buys from a guy with an all-seeing eye shaved into his head. Blade, as Anubis, was adopted by Osiris, but was fathered by Set and mothered by Nephthys, Set's wife. Here, Blade finds himself in a room with his mother and a character called Frost.
You spent your whole life looking for the vampire who bit your mother. Well, here I am.
Frost kills Whistler just like Set kills Osiris. Blade also includes the always essential Asmodeus and Lilith. This 3-pack of 2 male villains and 1 female or extremely effeminate villain is quite common. Blade and Hellboy themselves have quite a bit in common. Both are in secret agencies that hunt monsters. Both are half human, half something else. Both hunt their own kind. Both need an escort at all times. Both prefer violence rather to negotiation. Both adopted fathers have cancer, and both are referred to as the Key and Chosen Ones. And in both movies, the main villain intends on capturing him rather than killing him so that he may bring forth a powerful and evil god. And just like Blade 1 and Hellboy 1 resemble each other, Blade 2 and Hellboy 2 follow suit. In Blade 2, the main villain is a guy called Nomak, played by Luke Goss. Nomac's sister, who works for Vampire Nation, teams up with Blade to hunt and kill Nomac. Nomac has many characteristics of Hellboy's Prince Nuada, aka Geb. Both start off in the sewers, both are referred to as princes, both are exceedingly powerful, both are ordered dead by their father, both fathers are connected to the exact same sun symbolism, both kill their father, both fathers become solid objects as they shatter and die. Both attempt to form an alliance, both played by the same actor, Luke Goss, and, after an extended battle, both die at the same time on the same day as their sister. Even Blade's assistant is seen wearing a shirt that says BPRD, the Bureau of Paranormal Research and Defense, the very same agency and very same symbol from Hellboy. And similar to Anubis and Osiris, his adopted father, Blade finds and helps bring back to life Whistler, who apparently suffered a fatal injury. Like Egyptian mythology where Osiris is killed by Set, comes back with the help of Anubis, lives a short while, then is killed again. In Blade 3, the vampires are working overtime to find and awaken a sleeping god, Dagon or Drake. There's a couple scenes that connect him to the sun god, and to the all-seeing eye. And he tells a fellow vampire, Donna Katalos, to take off her cross.
Why do you wear that symbol? Take it off.
Why?
I will make you a better one.
Here's a quick bio on Drake.
Dracula's only one of the names he's gone by. The Babylonians worshipped him as Dagon, and now they call him Drake. If you believe in the legends, he was born in ancient Sumeria. He was the first of his kind. The patriarch of Hominis Nocturna. He was born perfect. And just like the great white shark, this guy has never had to evolve. Forget the movies, forget the books, there's no happy ending with this guy. He's been there, moving behind the scenes, cutting a bloody path through the ages, until suddenly he up and disappeared.
I've been called many things over many lifetimes. Ra, Krishna, Yahweh.
Ever since the world found out about mutants, there have been secret societies who see them as some kind of second coming or sign of God. They believe that tens of thousands of years ago, an ancient being was born, the world's first
mutant.
Wherever this being was, he always had 4 followers he would imbue with power.
Like the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. You got that one from the Bible.
Or the Bible got it from him.
You are all my children. And you're lost. Because you follow blind leaders. But I am here now. I'm here for you.
The Lion King is yet another film that appears to be derived from Egyptian mythology. It appears to be the story of Set, Osiris, and Horus. The Lion King is about a place in the Africa savannah called the Pride Lands. Populated by every sort of creature in peace and prosperity, the Pride Lands is ruled over by a lion named Mufasa. Then you have his brother, Scar, who is jealous of Mufasa's popularity. He eventually hatches a plan to get Mufasa and his son Simba killed so that he may rule the Pride Lands. His plan partly succeeds as Mufasa is trampled to death, and his son and heir to the throne, Simba, hides in exile. Scar, now the ruler of the Pride Lands, merges it with his own kingdom of hyenas. Scar's reign soon becomes a failure as disaster and famine strike the Pride Lands. Simba, now older, returns to the Pride Lands, has a massive battle with Scar, and reclaims the throne. This is exactly the story of the Egyptian gods Set, Osiris, and Horus. Osiris was the ruler of Lower Egypt during a time of peace, prosperity, and justice. His jealous brother Set ruled Upper Egypt and hated Osiris's rule and popularity. Set is the Egyptian god of chaos, storms, and evil. Egyptian mythology is terribly inconsistent from text to text, Set being among the few exceptions. He's universally considered dark and evil. In this song, Be Prepared, Scar's lair looks increasingly like hell.
So prepare for the coup of the century. Be prepared for the murkiest scam. Meticulous planning, tenacity spanning, decades of denial.
Set soon conspires to kill his brother Osiris in a remote place with no witnesses, just as Scar did. But Set only partially succeeds, because Horus, the son of Osiris, was still alive and fled into hiding. Set merges Upper and Lower Egypt and begins ruling them both, and brings both to failure. Eventually, Horus returns. A great battle ensues where Horus's eye is injured by Set, and alas, Horus defeats him. Some Egyptian texts even claim Set had Osiris trampled to death, just as Mufasa and Whistler were. Tomb Raider, starring Angelina Jolie, shown here zooming out from the right eye, is basically the chronicles of a female Indiana Jones. The first Tomb Raider contains the rather overt Illuminati symbolism.
The people of the light built a great city in this crater where they worshipped the triangle for its ability to control time. It gave its possessor a power that could be used for good or great evil. Their abuse of this power led to the destruction of the city. To be sure no man would ever again wield this power, they split the triangle into two pieces and hid them at opposite ends of the earth. With a secret society known as the Illuminati, devious, dangerous men who seek to fulfill an ancient prophecy by reuniting the two halves and attaining the triangle's awesome and terrible powers.
In Hellboy 2, the unstoppable weapon was Sekhmet, the Eye of Ra, who was so dangerous and powerful that control of it was split into three pieces. In Tomb Raider, it's the Triangle of Light, sporting an all-seeing eye, and that was so dangerous and powerful that control of it was split into three pieces. The all-seeing eye, portrayed as a non-sentient ultimate weapon, is quite common. Tomb Raider has traces of yet another familiar story, the story of Set, Osiris, and Horus, with Lara as a female Horus. In legend, Set kills Osiris in a remote place with no witnesses, like Lara Croft's father was killed, and as usual, Set is attempting to reach godhood. At the end, the final battle of who would rule between Horus and Set, Lara Croft and Manfred Powell race to the top of a pyramid. Like Lion King, Horus is victorious. Conan the Barbarian includes heavy use of eye and serpent symbolism. Conan the Barbarian is about a warrior named Conan, played by the talentless Arnold Schwarzenegger, whose family is killed by a guy named Falsa Doom. Conan is captured and turned into a hooligan. He's eventually set free and immediately proceeds on an adventure of revenge. He locates and sneaks into Falsa Doom's lair, which is called Set's Mountain of Power in the movie, and kills him. This story sounds like yet another retelling of Horus versus Set conflict. Set kills Horus's father, Osiris, and Horus spends the rest of his time gaining revenge and reclaiming his throne. Falsa Doom, played by James Earl Jones, is connected to the Egyptian god Set so often in the film that it's kind of implied that he is Set.
The only snakes I know of are those of Set and those cursed towers. They have spread to every city. 2 or 3 years ago, it was just another snake coat. Now, everywhere. It is said that they are deceivers. They murder people in the night.
A man who would someday be king by his own hand. One who would crush the snakes of the earth.
Snakes? Did you say snakes?
Conan has traces of the man who would be king, too, where Conan arrives with a special charm on his neck and is singled out. In Conan, Set's symbol is two connected serpents facing each other against the sun, whereas in the man who would be king, it was two connected serpents facing away. Also, a familiar theme unfolds as Conan dies and comes back to life. The general characteristics of the Antichrist in film is as follows. He's mistaken for a god, egocentric and vain, insensitive with bad people skills, uses violence as a solution, dies or suffers a severe injury. He may have a past life because of having died and come back. A moral failure in a cave, or made stronger in a cave, and goes bad. Very powerful, an excellent warrior. Has identifying mark, maybe wearing red. Impulsive, a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde kind of guy for sure. Can read minds and sense emotions. May find himself working for the bad guy or teaming up with him. At some point, may be underwater, usually thrown in the water, or arriving by boat. This symbolism is used because he is the beast from the sea. Usually finds himself at a train station, airport, or some other kind of port. May be hunted by two opposing sides. At some point, this character meets a witch doctor, tries to spare the innocent, can see in the dark, has special heritage, half human, half something, etc. Sordid past, and popular with women. The main villain may want to rule with him as opposed to killing him. This character's biblical name is the Beast of the Earth. In the Bible, this character enforces the power structure of the Antichrist, and, naturally, is often depicted as coming from below. This character is also extremely powerful, highly intelligent, bent on pure destruction, has disdain for life, and is often connected to the sun and all-seeing eye. It's not likely that the Illuminati, who has managed to commandeer the world, are obsessed with fictitious characters and fictitious events born from myth and legend. What's more likely is that they are obsessed with real characters and real events while making us obsessed with their fictional counterparts. And if, after all of this, you still don't believe something very strange and very real is being told, I can't help you. Well, I hope you learned a bit about the movies you watched and maybe even the world around you. And now it's your turn to share with others what you know. Good luck and thanks for watching.